the obvious question to ask is, what does it have to do with us? What does it have to do with the disputes profession as a whole? And the answer really is everything. I think the challenge is such that we need to pull every single lever that's available to us. And the way that I see this is that the reality is twofold in terms of the steps that we have to take. The first and most fundamental change or action that disputes professionals can take to reduce their own carbon footprint. The second issue that I really want to focus on is the systemic macro impact that disputes resolvers can have on the sustainability transition. Just to give a bit of an example to operationalize that point, it's estimated that to achieve net zero by 2050 will require $5 trillion of investment per year, every year, up until that point. Now, that equates to about 4.5% of global GDP at the moment. It is an unprecedented mobilization of capital that is needed. And disputes professionals have a crucial role to play in helping to mobilize that capital, whether it's by de-risking projects through the implementation of initiatives like dispute avoidance boards, right through to the way that complex structured deals are interpreted. They can make the difference between these projects being investable or not being investable. We're talking about high risk, often low yield investments, and it's going to require a new approach by everyone involved, the financiers, the lawyers, the dispute resolvers. So it is really up to our profession to interpret that.
We need to think about the wider context. The wider context is, if we don't do it now, if we don't limit, if we don't adapt to, or if we don't manage these changes, we will not be able to reduce the burden on future generations, who will have a far greater impact and cost of climate change. So you mentioned 5 trillion every annum. That's going to be nothing as compared to if we don't do it now, and the impact of those costs on future generations will be enormous. You know, we need to think about that by doing these activities, these changes now, we will be helping our economies to cope better. We will be widening the health, energy, and biodiversity elements that are so essential to our living.
My overriding message to everyone participating today is that we all need to act to educate ourselves about these issues. And you rightly distinguish between the macro level, the policy level, the legislative changes that are coming, the fact that we need to educate ourselves so we properly understand the renewables technology. As an energy arbitrator, I would say now almost half my energy cases relate to renewables in some way, shape or form, which was not the situation even perhaps 5 years ago. So we need to be looking at that aspect, but we also, as you rightly say, need to be looking at the micro level, which is the more individual responsibility point. I would say, going to the question you posed to me about Wendy's lecture, it is entirely proper that we focus more on the macro level at this stage, education and awareness. And people feel slightly, I think, feel disenfranchised in the sense that they want to do something and they don't know how to start. And the campaign has really tried to give people the tools they need in order to make these changes. And I hope that whilst I acknowledge 100% that those changes are not going to be sufficient for the reasons I give, I think they have a broader value as well, in the sense that they begin a conversation that may end up in having a broader impact. And I always come back to that wonderful quote by Margaret Mead, which is, you know, never doubt that a small group of committed citizens can change the world. It's the only thing that ever has. And certainly dispute resolution practitioners are nothing if not committed.
since the beginning of the pandemic, all of my arbitrations have been done remotely. I've done a number of mediations in person and online, but all the arbitrations have gone forward remotely, and they have gone extremely well. I don't feel that there's anything lost. The lawyers initially were hesitant to use Zoom for the arbitration. The arguments were made such as, well, we need to see the witnesses live to cross-examine them. You know, we can't get the same feeling, if you will, in a virtual arbitration. I think that our experiences has totally dispelled that, and that in my view, there's nothing at all that's lost by using Zoom as opposed to meeting in person. If anything, I find the process to be more efficient. There's less downtime. Things seem to move ahead more quickly, which is also good for the cost and the usage of all the technology is involved.
What we have to try to do, and this is really our role here now as ADR professionals, be it arbitration, be it mediation, be it adjudication, be it dispute boards, is really to concentrate more on the dispute avoidance aspect rather than the dispute resolution aspect of our practices. I'll put on the table actually a list of what I think are important factors to look at as we contemplate these different areas of dispute resolution. And I think we have to have a radical change along with the radical changes that will be occurring through the transition. We as ADR professionals also have to look at radical changes in the mechanisms that we're currently utilizing to resolve disputes.